I am excited to be joined by Kerry Brooks today. He is the founder and president of Autism to Awesome. So Kerry, thank you so much for being with us today.
Listen, thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to be on your platform and share my story. So thank you so very much for having me.
And that's exactly what we're going to start with, is your story. Tell us, like, how did you come to be the founder and president of Autism to Awesome?
Well, in 2002, late 2002, early 2003, our son was diagnosed with autism, which is a developmental disability that affects, communication, social, and behavioral skills. So the doctor told us that he definitely, was diagnosed with autism. And he told us that there was nothing that we could do. He told us to focus on having other children and prepare our son for a group home. Yes, I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, so it was heartbreaking. The total situation was overwhelming. But my wife and I, we decided not to listen to him and to take a different path. And so that's what we did. Along the way, ups and downs, we developed our own strategies to help him reach his full potential. And that's what we were able to do over the years. Today, he's will be 21 in November, and he graduated about 2 years ago from high school with honors. Definitely English speaker, but also a Spanish speaker as well. He's enrolled in college, and he's doing fantastic. So he has an opportunity to make his own decision and his own choices in life on what he would like to do and what he would like to become. But it was a journey that a lot of people helped us along the way. It was nothing that we did by ourselves, and it was hard work, but it was worth it. It was worth it.
And now, first of all, did you have an idea before the doctor told you? Were there some signs that you were suspecting that he might have some sort of challenge?
Absolutely. Along the way, when you have a child, you do your regular, pediatric, checkups, and they have these milestones that the child should be reaching. A certain age they should be crawling, certain age they should be saying, these amount of words. And our son, around late 2 years old, early 3, he was speaking about 25 words, and he regressed to 2 words. And he would have these temper tantrum, and people ask me these meltdowns, what I call them. People go, what are meltdowns? And I go, they're really actually temper tantrum on steroids, because they will last anywhere from 10 minutes to 45 minutes. It just depends on, what triggered him to have these, meltdowns. So we noticed a few things. He wasn't eating much, started developing really dark circles under his eyes, and we just became really concerned. So that's when we took him to the doctor, and they referred us to someone else. And then we eventually, got the diagnosis that he was diagnosed with autism.
Now, he was your first child?
Correct.
Your first child?
First out of 5.
Oh my goodness. So you took the advice, you still decided to have other kids.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, how did you go about, like, you said you didn't just listen to the doctor, but how did you know where to begin to deal with it, to handle this on your own, to tackle it?
Well, we just basically started doing our own research, and, his mother was definitely the key and the cornerstone of researching any and everything. And so then we started finding out, where they were having different autism conferences. So she would go to the conference, I would stay behind and take care of him. And then whatever she learned at the conference, she would come home and teach me. And we started reaching out to local support groups as well. And so once we started reaching out to local support groups, we started finding additional information on where we could go and what we could do. And we also decided, that everything that we found wasn't for us. So that's why I tell people, what may work for us may not work for you. So you have to keep searching, because what works for one person on the spectrum may not necessarily work for another person. So you have to keep going until you find what actually works for your child and your family.
There we go. Now I can hit the unmute button. When folks come to you, when they first, well, I don't want to jump into that yet. So how long was it before you started to see some results? What kinds of things can you tell us like some sort of things that you tried, or like what was life like for those first couple of years?
First couple of years was definitely overwhelming because he really didn't sleep much at all. I mean, he really didn't sleep much at all. I had a full-time job. His mom was a stay-at-home mom, but for anybody who doesn't think that stay-at-home mom is a full-time and a half job, they should try it themselves because it's really, really a tough job. So he really didn't sleep much, really didn't eat much. And also when we tried to go out in public, uh, loud noises, you know, they could spook him. And one time she was walking with him, they were leaving the mall or somewhere, she wasn't holding his hand, and a loud motorcycle came by and he just took off running toward the parking lot. She had to literally run down to catch him because, you know, she had no idea that he would react like that to noises. Going into movie theaters, you know, when they do the previews and everything, we started letting him just cover his ears or wearing headphones till all of that had passed, because it was just really extremely loud for him. Bright lights, he definitely didn't like bright lights at all. So that was another thing that we had to deal with as well. And tried to get him to socialize with other young people his age. He just wanted to be by himself. A lot of times he would line up cars or line up toys on the floor, and he would just lay on the floor and just look at them virtually for hours if you allow him to do so. He would crawl into small spaces under the bed and things of that nature. And the diet was really tough because there wasn't a lot of things that he would eat. So that was really tough.
Wow, it's got to be somewhat heartbreaking, right? Especially, I mean, did you find that he didn't want to be close to you as well? That he wasn't not like a cuddler, right? That's my understanding.
Well, one thing, you know, that's is true for some children, but I would say for our son, you know, he was definitely, because I would get him foot massages, especially like in order
Ah,
to try to get him to sleep at night. So I would get him foot massage, that deep pressure, and I would wrestle with him a lot because some kids on the spectrum, they do love this deep pressure.
yeah,
So once I could get him this deep pressure, either body to body compression by wrestling with him or just doing a foot massage and everything, that would also help him calm down, you know, to go to sleep at night, calm down from the temper tantrum. So he wouldn't shy away from his parents from cuddling, but from other people, he definitely would.
yeah, yeah. Wow, interesting. So now I'm curious, how old was your son when your next child came along?
Ooh, that was a good little age gap, probably about 8-year age gap, because we made a conscious effort to pour our effort, our resource, our knowledge into getting him where he needed to be. So it was a pretty significant gap.
And how did he react to that? Having a brother or a sister?
It just took some getting used to, but eventually got used to it. They have a nice, you know, well, they all have a nice close relationship now, but took some getting used to because he was the only child for, you know, for a significant period of time, but also just used to having his own space by himself, used to having everything on his own. So it just took some time to get used to that group. And that's what we saw even going into, when he first started going into the school. It's like, okay, you got to follow these rules and other people going to be there, because he really didn't like anyone in his space. So we had to do different type of requested different type of seating in the school for him, and slowly brought him into next to everyone else. So, you know, when people say, hey, they did this special seating for our son, we didn't have a problem with it. We sat him a little bit farther back. He didn't want anyone around him. So he was just going to be distracted. But as he continued to get used to being around people, other kids, you know, 8 or 10 in a classroom, they slowly brought him into the reading circuit and everything, and it was fine. So he started making friends eventually. So we had no problem with, you know, the accommodation that the school, that we requested that the school make.
That's great. And you just sense that that would be something he would definitely want. But did you know that he was going to be able to function with that many people around?
No, you know, not at all. The thing about it, I don't know if they still have it, but one thing that we did when he first started going to school is called a shadow teacher. So we requested from the school that, you know, what resources do you have? And at that time, we're talking, like I said, he'll be 21 this year. So at that time, autism still wasn't being talked about that much. So we, you know, went back and forth with the school. They gave pushback, we gave pushback, and we eventually got what we wanted. We got an IEP, an individualized education plan, that laid out specifically what the school would do, how they would evaluate him, and they would meet with us periodically, and we had significant input in that as well. And so we all were working together to help him reach his goal once we got on the same page. And so we had a shadow teacher, and she would follow him because he had a proper transition. The shadow teacher would make sure that he stayed on task from transition from one task to the next task. And once he did that and was able to do the next task, then they go to the next one as well. And that went on probably for about one school year, maybe a school year and a half. And eventually, the school approached us and like, he has no problem transitioning, so we want to try to just cut it down to 3 times a week, twice a week, once a week, and then eventually him without the shadow teacher. So that's how we went about getting him just, make him a success in school.
So has it got easier as he's got older when he's able to understand more about what you want from him? And
Oh, absolutely. Now, when we were in Ecuador, when he graduated in 2019, his high school. So we were in Ecuador and he did his senior project and he had to give this presentation. He's like, Dad, I'm speaking at 10. I said, I know, I'll be there, son. So I didn't see him before he went to school. I had already gone to work. But when I pulled up to the school, went into the classroom, he was set up with his PowerPoint, had a suit on. I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm like, he looks so sharp. So, and then he gave his presentation. I'm like, you know what, son, you stick to doing what you're doing, you're gonna be a success. I mean, you just figure out what you want to do and you're going to be a success. He gave a presentation. That was a panel of 4 teachers and some students were allowed to come in and watch as well. And after that, they were able to ask him questions. He answered the questions flawlessly. And I was just really blown away because as a parent, you're busy. And I tell people to enjoy the small miracles, to enjoy the moment, to live in the moment. I know all of them are not as as beautiful as we'd like them to be, but they are still the moments that make up our lives, that make up our miracles. And so when I saw him, standing there giving this presentation, I'm like, where did this kid come from? I'm like, where did he come from? So I was just, as a father, as a parent, as a teacher, a trainer, I was just so proud of him. And I'm like, okay, if we can do that for him, I know that we can help other people, help their kids along the way as well. Not everyone, but we can help others as well. So that's what we've been doing.
so is that your full-time thing now? Is working with other parents and stuff?
Not full time yet, but in about 12 to 18 months, it'll be full time. Right now, still on a part-time basis. I still have a full-time job. I'm here now stationed in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. So about 18 more months, it'll be my full-time job.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So what do you do now? What's your day job?
I'm a criminal investigator. I'm a special agent with for the federal government. So I'm working now as a trainer. I train other law enforcement on how to investigate certain criminal activities.
Interesting. So let's talk more about today, like what your life is like today. And also I want to make sure that we talk about, because this our main topic is how you help your child with autism, with some other developmental disability, with something that might make you fear for them when you're not around, right? So when you pass, how is this person going to be able to support themselves? How are they going to be able to be independent, financially independent? And, if they don't choose to work, if they can't work, if they work is a challenge and they can't get maybe the big money job. So I guess that's the next sort of thing that I want to start to focus on, but I want to first hear your life today, like how you help people within your organization, Autism to Awesome, and then kind of sashay into how you would start, like where would you begin if you wanted to teach your child about, because I think regardless, like a non-developmentally challenged child, it's still hard to get them to sit still and listen to things about learning about the stock market and stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Today, people can find us at, www.autismtoawesome.com. But what we do is offer strategies, life strategies based on what we've done, and also some research that we've learned along the way as well, how to go about helping your child along the way. That's why the thing is, I knew I couldn't be everywhere, but I want to get it out as much people as possible. So that's why I wrote the book, Autism Awesome, Allow Your Greatest Christ Become Your Greatest Miracle. Because for me, when it comes to, helping your child reach their full potential, when it comes to investing, you have to play the long game. There's no overnight, it's going to be a miracle overnight. If that happened for you, that's great. But my thing is, you have to play the long game and take small steps and learn from those small steps and continue to build upon that foundation. That's what we did with his education. And that's what we're training other people to do today. Don't compare your child to someone else, because to me, I don't think it's going to be beneficial, because everyone develops at a different time frame. So what your kid may not be doing at 8 and some other 6-year-old is doing, but your child's not doing 8, that's fine. That's fine. Continue to focus and work with your child where they are and enjoy those moments. It's like it's overwhelming. It's going to seem like you can't go another day, but it's adding up. It's like compound interest when you invest. Everything is adding up. You just may think it's these small increments, but 18 years later, they're 21. You go, oh my goodness, this kid is a young man or a young woman, and they are just, blowing it away. They're off to college, or they started their own business, or whatever they started to do. Is that the possibilities are endless. I just think sometimes as parents, we have to provide the best resources, but also we have to get out of the way and let them grow and flourish. We have to let them grow and flourish. And it's scary. It's very scary, even for a neurotypical kid to let me step back and get out the way. They're going to learn. But one of the things along the way that we did with our son was to allow him to fall, to allow him to fail, because I wanted him to learn how to get back up. I wanted him to learn from that. So we would travel in the US and sometime overseas. And when he got to the point where he became an excellent reader, I mean, he could read extremely well, and before he couldn't. So as he got up in age, high school, I said, you're an excellent reader. So when we go through the airport, you guide us. You get us through security. You get us to our gate. You tell us what we need to do. I'm following you today. And he did that. So, and I was preparing him to be able to travel around the world on his own. Read the signs. Ask for help. These are the people working at the airport. Ask for help. So the first time we allowed him to travel by himself from Ecuador, to the United States, he got, he made the first leg, but he had to catch a second leg somewhere. I forget, I don't know if it was in Miami or Atlanta. And he got to the counter, okay, but he fell asleep and he missed his flight. Yes, I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm like, so, but he fell back on his training. That's why I believe in training. He fell back on his training and he went to the counter. He asked for assistance. They said, we can reroute you on this flight. And he stayed close to the counter and didn't fall asleep this time. So he didn't panic. And that's why I really believe in training. I don't care what it is. I believe in training because it gives the brain something to reference to. If you come across a situation and you've never been exposed to it, sometimes people may panic when it's stressful. But if you have an idea of what you might do, it doesn't have to be a perfect plan, but if you have some concept of, I'm going to ask for help, I'm going to use my phone, whatever it may be, the brain has something to fall back on for you to go, this is what I'm going to do to resolve this problem. And that's what we did with him along the way. From his childhood, we started small and just started helping him to solve problems along the way, children problems, now young adult problems. And that's what the training is about, teaching life skills to parents as how they can help their child reach their full potential. But we have to get out of the way.
And it's so hard, isn't it?
It really is. It really is.
But do you think that by training, are you also saying sort of like repetition to sort of and practice to say, okay, let's imagine this happened. And then so envisioning yourself succeeding in a specific type of situation. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that we go over in our, special intervention training technique in SITT is that, we got to put the effort in. If we thinking that someone else is going to do it for us, because it's not easy, but we have to put the effort in. And we have to continually put that effort in. But one of the biggest things when we look at SITT, it's like 5 things, but one of the biggest one is when I talked about adaptability to change. A person who's not on, the spectrum has a difficult time, adapting to change. So the person on the spectrum, because they do love routine, our son loved routine. And a lot of people who are on the spectrum, they do love routine. And when that routine doesn't go, as it should, it can be a temper tantrum, a meltdown. It can just be, they're just thrown off track. So how to teach someone to adapt to change, and then like you just mentioned it, repetition. Once you find out what works for you keep doing that what works for you. And you know that, okay, if this does happen, I have a backup plan. If it doesn't go the way, if I miss my plane, what am I going to do? So I got a reference point. I'm going to go to the counter, tell them I'm supposed to fly here, but I missed my flight. So you have a reference point. If you get lost somewhere, who do you look for in the mall, to help you, find the party that you've been lost from? So it's definitely about repetition. But for parents, I tell parents, we got to overcome these first step fears. We even with a child that's not on the spectrum, but we have one that's on the spectrum, we have these fears because most of us, we never heard of autism because it didn't affect us. So we had no need to know unless we're in the education field, a teacher or something like that, or medical field, it didn't affect us. But once you hear this word autism, you go, oh my God, what is this? And it's not, any type of life sentence. People have gone on to live fruitful, prosperous lives that are on the spectrum. So it is possible, but we have to get over those first step fears and put in the effort, help our kids and ourselves, adapt to change. And the things that work for us, keep repeating them over and over, the things that work well for us.
So how do you think, have you talked with your son about stock investing? Have you done any of that together?
We talked about just in general, just being financially sound,
Yeah.
getting a job, and he's good about saving money. He's really good. he'll spend my money.
So he's just like every kid, right?
Yeah. But he decided to take a break, when he had just started college. I think he got in maybe 2 semesters, but it was just back and forth to class. It wasn't really the college experience. So he decided to put it off and got a job. And he's in the US right now. And he's working, but he's saving every penny. I mean, he's saving everything. And we do talk about taking the opportunity to go, what does your future look like? If you want to have your own house, have your own apartment, have your own car, what is it going to take to get that? And it's like, listen, you have to, number one, live within your means. There's certain things you can't afford right now, but live within your means and save. And we also talk about how do we go about, for us, that I like, we talk about multiple streams of income. What is it that these young people are so smart and so bright, and the internet puts them in contact with the entire world. So what are you passionate about that maybe you could even be doing on the internet while you're in college, running your own business? So now, you have multiple streams of income coming in. So those are some of the things that we do talk about.
Do you think that the non-neurotypical mind is well suited to that type of analysis that you would want to do to be successful in the stock market?
I think it's going to come down to an individual. I think people just take interest in different areas, but I think if it's explained, because I think most people like having certain things in life, whether it's a nice car, a nice house, or you just want to be comfortable and not worry about, where's my, next meal is coming from. I think that once they can see it and understand how it works, that they will become very interested in it. I'm not saying it's going to be overnight, but I think like with some of the things with our son, just doing things over repetition wise, I think it's going to play huge in the long run, because even now his siblings, we just started a fidelity fund for each one of them, and explaining to them, all the birthday money that you get, all the, you're going out buying a video game that you probably play for 1 month, but if you take this money and invest it, and it's being compiled, like I said, a mutual fund with everybody else's money, it's like by the time you're 30, 35, you'll be very, very happy with your parents, that we did that for you. So we definitely talked to them about, investing in mutual funds.
Yeah, it's interesting. I interviewed probably over a year ago now, Ione McNeil, and when she had that revelation that she could get a pair of Nike sneakers like all the other kids were doing, or she could own part of the company. She was like, well, that was a no-brainer.
That's a huge difference, a
Oh
huge difference.
yeah. Oh yeah. So what
Yeah.
are some of the secrets? What are some of the keys or the techniques that you could use to introduce your child to these sorts of new concepts? Like, obviously the stock market is its own language in a way.
I think for us, the thing that we do is like, where do you see yourself, and what is that you want to have in the future? Because right now, young people like having things, and that's fine. I mean, when I was young, I wanted things as well. But it's like, and you just gave a great analogy. You want to own a pair of Nike, own a part of the company. So I just think once they can see how it just starts to add up, I think that's when the eyes just like really open up. Like, wow, we invested $50 a month, and now we're here. And now, when you get your own job, you can put in 100 a month or 150 a month. And it's like, if you continue to do this, you're like, some of my kids like 16 now. So you continue to do this until you're 30, 40, 50, and your salary is going to increase. So your investment should increase as well. And if you decide to get a job with the company that's going to have a 401k and matches that, it's like, listen, don't leave money on the table. I think, once they see it and you can talk to them in their own terms about what is it that you want, and also allow them to spend some of it as well, not just to save everything and invest everything, because, to be honest, young people, they're like, they want it now. So, and let them enjoy, buying some things as well. So like for my kids right now, if they want to buy a game, before I would buy it for them, but they get birthday money and everything. If they want to buy a game that's $30, I go, bring me your money. And you'll see that you no longer have this money. You had the game. Was it really worth it? Sometimes they'll say yes, and sometimes they'll say no. I'm like, by next year, that $30 maybe would have been $60. Maybe 50. So just playing that with them and letting them just see it and just slowly understand it, not trying to make them understand everything overnight, but just slowly introducing them to it and discussing it at home at the dinner table, just over and over, like, what do you want to do with your money? And the older one, you see the older ones, they definitely want to save. They definitely want to save. So it's like, and then if they want to buy certain things, go buy it. That's what you wanted to do, go buy it. So
Yeah, it's true. I mean, and you've obviously done a great job with them, because not all kids understand the value of savings or investing. And they just, like you say, immediate gratification. Let's have it now. Let's do it, Dad. Get me this thing, but um, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So what other strategies or what other ideas do you have about how parents of any sort of kid can help them to get excited about, what have you done to help your kids get excited about the idea of the future and to envision that future instead of just like now?
well, like so certain things, kids don't like when they have to live under their parents' rules. Especially when they become teenagers, they just don't like it. So they want to have their own. So it's like, okay, you want to have your own. I agree with you. I want you to have your own, because you do need to move out. And but what does that look like? What is it that you want to do? Well, I'll just have an apartment with no food. Really? As much as you eat here, you're just going to have an apartment with no food? So just get it, helping them to understand. And also, the thing about it is, the kids will go shopping, with my wife to the grocery store. And they've become really good, and they'll see something. In fact, we just finished shopping for school clothes. And they'll see certain things and go, wow, that's pricey. And they'll put it back. She doesn't have to tell them to put it back. They will put it back. I mean, they're all, they're boys, but it's like, wow, that's pricey. And they will put it back and, move on to the next item, or try to find something where they think it's a reasonable price. And so does she. And then they will end up buying it. So just getting them to understand what things cost, and is it really worth it to have it? Getting them involved, going grocery shopping. When they want certain things at the grocery store, it's like, you see how much this costs? You think you really want that, or do you have to have it? I really don't have to have it. Or we can, get our own fruits and vegetables and do our own juicing, as opposed to buying something that's already pre-juiced and it's an astronomical price because it's freshly squeezed juice, when you can buy the fruits and vegetables and do it yourself. So getting them involved, I think for us, has really been a big help. Grocery store, and also shopping for their own clothes, because they see up front what it costs. you know.
Definitely. So you just said something that I didn't realize. Do you have all 5 boys?
That's it. Five
Wow.
boys. 5 boys. The girl eluded me. She's trying to have a girl, but she eluded me, so no girl.
You're not going to keep trying, right?
No. Some things you just have to accept in life.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, so Kerry, I've loved talking to you. I want you to, can you help us now, like, to talk about what you think parents should be doing today, especially parents of kids who are non-neurotypical or have other sort of challenges. What should they be doing today to make everybody's life easier and make their kids more happy, more successful, and more um, just to ease that tension, right? Because there's a tension when things aren't going what you think of as smoothly, or how you think they should, or whatever.
Yeah, for me personally, I mean, everyone is different. Every family dynamic is different. But for me personally, I like to look at myself. I like to reflect on myself and see how can I develop myself. It's not about me blaming that my child was diagnosed with autism or that the doctor is not the best doctor that I didn't find in the beginning. It's about what can I do to develop me. And I think from what I've seen with our kids, it's going to translate, to the kids as well. If you are a person and oriented toward solving problems and coming up with solutions, I think for the most part, that's going to translate to your kids as well. And I think they learn also by seeing you do it, not so much as you just talking to them and telling them about it as well. If you're the person that, go and donate to charity the things that you don't need, the kids are going to see this as well. And so for me, it's about being a mentor also to the kids as well, looking at what can I do that the kids will see me doing and they go, wow, that's the right thing to do because we are helping other people. And I think if we help other people along the way, other people help us. I just think that's going to make for a better community. So being involved, even when your day may not be going the way you think it should go, but still being kind and offering help to other people, I think that goes a long way that the kids see that no matter what's happening, you can still show kindness, compassion, and whatever you're not using, you can donate it to someone else that's less fortunate.
Absolutely. And I could see how that would also help to make you a better person, right? Because you think,
Absolutely.
okay, I'm a mirror. These kids are looking at me. They're they're imitating me, right? They're going to do what I do, not do what I say. So,
Absolutely.
right.
Absolutely.
Keeps you on the straight and narrow, right?
I tell the story when our son was diagnosed, with autism. The thing that I most wanted to do was to teach him everything that I know. I wanted to just everything that I know, I wanted to teach it to him. But when I come to find out, he has taught me much more than I would ever teach him, much more. And he's made me a better parent, a better father, a better human being. And so these are the things that I look at as like, listen, live your life with a purpose. And I believe that that will a lot of time translate to your kids living their life with a purpose as well. Have the conversation with them, talk to them about it. But I just think kids also watch what their parents are doing and be a mentor. You don't have to be a parent all the time. You can be a mentor. I coach my kids in basketball and they hate it. They don't want me to be their coach, but I'm still their coach, So it's like, I'm not going to have these moments forever, but they see that, listen, I'm not just tough with them on the basketball court. I'm tough with everyone because I see things in you right now that you have the potential to be better. Not just at basketball. To me, basketball is not about just playing the basketball game. It's about getting better at whatever you decide to do, whatever that is, sports, non-sports, your career, whatever you decide to do, become better at it and help other people along the way. You're not going to get there by yourself. So that's what I think as parents, that's what I like to do as a parent, just to get involved, not only with my own kids, but with other kids as well.
Kerry, were you always like this? I mean, did you always have this attitude, or has this been an evolution for
Yeah,
you?
total evolution. I've always wanted to help kids, even when I was a young person, I wanted to help kids. But there was a twist when my oldest son was born to help kids, with the developmental disability. It's like, oh wow, now that's a challenge. that's a real challenge. And it's your own kid. it's like, wow, now that's a huge challenge. But going through it, it's like, I love it. And it's like, I wouldn't have had it any other way, but it's been a total, evolution, so looking back at myself, what would I want, especially when he was young, I would ask myself, what would I want from my father if I was him? What would I want? It's not so much, oh, I'm going to help you make all A's and B's in school. I'm going to help you be the best student. No, start with love, continue with love, and end with love. I think if we can come from the love standpoint, we will see things that would just open up to us. And I think it will be an easier journey. I'm not saying it's going to be easy every day, because that's not what love is. So it's just stay in the fight, stay in the game, but knowing that this person is blessing you, and you may not see it, but you're blessing them as well. And you're going to bless other people, because one day you're going to be out there sharing your story. Your child will be out there sharing their story about their parents, their mentor, their teachers, and it's just going to change people's lives. That's just my belief.
That's perfect. That's beautiful advice, Kerry. So do you feel like after 21 years, do you understand the way your son's mind works a little bit? Do you kind of feel like you can anticipate how he'll react to things and stuff like that?
No.
So just like every
No.
kid then.
Basically, exactly. This kid, let me tell you what he did when he before he went to college. They had this great program at the school in Ecuador that prepared you for college. I was like, oh man, this is great. This is great. He just nonchalantly, didn't participate. I'm like, hey, have you finished this? The counselor calling. I'm going to get to it, Dad. I'm going to get to it. I'm like, oh my goodness, man. So one day, his mother get a call from the school that he applied to. Say, hey, did you get your letter? And she go, what letter? Your son's been accepted to college. Which college is this? It's like, when did he apply? So he applied online and blah, blah. It's like, but these things, he didn't mention anything to us, nothing. He would get some type of award at school for best whatever. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, because I coach basketball at the school. The teacher go, hey, you must be really proud of your son. I go, yeah, I'm proud of him. She go, no, he got an award. I said, when? We didn't know anything. We didn't know anything. So he just keep these things to himself. You have to pull it. You still have to pull it out of him. Like, hey, how did your day go? Anything happen you want to tell me about? So it's still just, he's a young man doing his own thing, and we're proud of him. But it's still just having this conversation to understand, okay, what's going on with you? What is that you want to ask me? So you still have to talk to him and listen. Still have to listen to see what he's saying.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Wow, that is so funny. Surprise.
Exactly.
You come to the graduation, you find out he's like valedictorian. Like, wait a minute.
Listen, true story. True story. He wasn't a valedictorian, but like I said, I had no idea he graduated with honors. They got the different color tassels on, so they put it on him, like looking at his mom, like, he graduated with honors. It's like, I don't know. So it's like, when were you gonna tell us? When were you going to tell us? But he accomplished these things in life and just keep moving forward. So I'm like, okay, well, thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing.
Funny. Oh man. So Kerry, is there anything that you wish I would have asked you? Anything that you want to make sure that you share and let people know?
My thing would be for parents to understand that if you have someone that's on the spectrum, it's definitely a challenge, but it's a challenge, in my opinion, that's very well worth it. I believe that these kids have a huge opportunity. I believe that they can strive just as much as anyone else. The learning and the journey is going to be quite different, but I don't think that precludes them from, succeeding and doing what they want to do in life. I believe that if we start with love, continue with love and end with love, that would translate to our children as well, helping them to build their self-esteem, helping them to even, be kind and be compassionate to other people, although they may be facing challenge in their own lives. These are the things I think translate outside the classroom, that translate into the world, that makes the world a better place. Love, compassion, kindness, looking out for one another. You just never know who's barely hanging on, and you just holding the door, picking up a book for them, or asking them, how are you doing today? That you help them to just get to the next day. We just never know. So I just think start with love, continue with love, and end with love. So that would be my advice to parents.
That I love that. That's a perfect way to end. Thank you so much, Kerry. So make sure you go to Kerry's website, Autism to Awesome, and it's the number 2, and there'll be a link in the show notes. And if you want to help us, actually, I don't think we have anybody. I'm not sure. I'm trying to get to 50 countries, Kerry. So
Okay.
I gave people a couple of ideas last week. I think Morocco, Greece, and I forget what the other country was. But yeah, any countries that you can think of. I think we already have Saudi Arabia where you are right now, but I bet you know people in other places. I don't think we have Ecuador. So maybe you could go to your old friends over there. And
Oh, absolutely. I mean, especially down at the, they got a great school down there. I mean, probably a great opportunity was to talk to some of the staff down there, because I give them thumbs up. They helped us a lot with all of our kids. Yeah.
excellent. Excellent. Well, all they have to do is like the podcast from there. So that will get
Okay.
us, get them on the list. Because
Okay.
yeah, we want to be in 50 countries by the end of this year. So.
Okay. No, I would definitely do my best, because we send out a monthly newsletter. We got people in several other countries that we can put it on our news, put the link on the newsletter and everything, and send it out to them.
All right, great. That'd be fun. And listener, that doesn't mean that you don't also have to share with someone you know in a foreign country, because it's really, this has been fun for me to count up every week how many countries we're in, and we're not at 50 yet. So we got to keep plugging. So thanks so much, Kerry. Thank you, listeners, for listening. Have a wonderful, fantastic week. Remember to subscribe and to share this episode with someone who you know could definitely benefit from hearing Kerry's wisdom. And more important, I mean, his wisdom is important, but also just his message of love. I mean, that really to me was the most enjoyable part of our conversation.